Being in a shipyard in general sucks without any of the COVID stuff.
Madeline Walchko works on an American container ship that got stuck in a Shanghai shipyard during the city's COVID lockdown, and she documented her 2-month-long experience.
Once the lockdown happened, it was just kind of one thing after the next.
She and the crew had to rely on local authorities for supplies.
We have a delivery here of food and water.
Took regular COVID tests, all while living on a semi-dismantled ship.
The rainforest is back. We're just trying to keep busy just to stay sane.
Their struggle shows just how hard it was for shipyards as well as companies in the region to keep working through Shanghai's COVID restrictions. In February, the President Wilson docked at a shipyard just north of the city's port for repairs that were originally meant to take a little over a month.
This ship works 24/7. We don't stop.
Walchko is the ship's second officer and is from Washington State. She gave the Wall Street Journal permission to use her footage. The plan was to finish the maintenance, then pick up containers at the port. Walchko says when the work started, some days about 500 shipyard workers would come aboard. But about a month into their stay, Shanghai entered a lockdown. Walchko says the workers stopped coming and most of the repair work ground to a halt.
We were kind of already used to being on board, the difference being that we're not moving, there's no work progressing.
Restricted to the ship by local authorities, the crew was stuck on a vessel that was midway through repairs.
Starting to get flooded already in here.
Unable to stock up on their regular food supplies, they relied on government deliveries.
At the beginning of the lockdown, we had about a month's meat left. It was a little terrifying.
The crew also had to undergo regular COVID testing, following a schedule set by the shipyard authorities.
The PCR test shall be done on the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 7th, 10th, 14th, 17th, and 21st days.
Walchko says all of this took a toll on the mental health of the crew.
It's difficult when there's no set date, no set plan. Everyone's up and down all the time.
The company CMA-CGM Group, which owns the President Wilson, said they were in daily contact with the crew to ensure their health and safety, and worked with local authorities to organize food and other necessities. About a month after things came to a halt, the shipyard implemented a system that would allow workers to return to the vessel, despite the city's COVID restrictions. It's called a closed loop.
Basically, the workers are locked down in a confined area, and they're not allowed to leave, but they can still work.
This closed-off environment wasn't only used at the shipyard, but it's also been implemented by factories and financial companies, where employees lived and slept at work. Some even setting up tents for privacy. It's a way for officials to balance two competing goals: curb the spread of COVID and keep production going to limit economic damage and global supply chain fallout. Companies like Tesla and China's largest state-owned automaker SAIC all implemented closed loops during Shanghai's lockdown. But this system isn't always running at 100% capacity compared to normal times.
Closed loop does not mean perfect. It doesn't mean perfect loop.
Jared Ward is the chairman of the Supply Chain Committee at the American Chamber of Commerce in Shanghai. He also works for Houston Logistics, a company that organizes and manages the transport of goods at the port for suppliers and retailers.
You're basically concentrating the labor without allowing them to go home. I mean, there's a human toll to that, as well as just the general lack of efficiency of having enough people.
Many of the city's shipyards also faced reduced capacity. According to the President Wilson's crew, only a fraction of the original workforce returned to the ship when work resumed.
And it was just a trickle, like it was 10 people, and then it was 20 people, and then it was 50 to 60 people.
Along with fewer people, there were not enough materials coming into shipyards in Shanghai for repairs. That's because the lockdown created a logistics headache. Truck drivers coming into the city had to take COVID tests or quarantine, slowing down deliveries to factories and the port.
Even though you may have the closed loop labor on site, you still don't have your components flowing into the manufacturing site.
So with fewer people and materials, the ship's repairs dragged on for months, and the President Wilson's crew simply had to wait.
We're never gonna get out of here.
The Port of Shanghai and the company that owns the shipyard, COSCO Shipping Heavy Industry, didn't respond to requests for comment. The city's government lifted COVID restrictions on June 1st, and about a week later, the President Wilson completed its repairs and set out to pick up cargo at the port.
We are finally on our way down the Yangtze River.
But there's still uncertainty for companies that rely on shipping and manufacturing in the region.
The biggest concern is, this COVID situation we went through in Shanghai, easily could come back next month or, could come back in another location. And, how is your supply chain designed? Is it flexible enough to actually deal with that?
Shipping analysts say as trucking and activity at the port return to normal, they expect the resumption of export shipments to have a ripple effect, creating congestion at other major ports around the world, especially as the back-to-school and holiday shopping seasons start to kick in. Companies operating in China could become increasingly wary of more disruptions caused by strict COVID strategies.
That's why we see people deciding about alternative supply points, whether they're still inside of China or outside. So this is where the impact will be felt for, I think, certainly months, but many years to come.
The President Wilson is finding its way back into the global supply chain, with its final destination at the U.S.'s busiest container port complex at Los Angeles and Long Beach.
People don't really think about the humans involved and that we have limits. Just go, go, go all the time. Think about the cargo and think about the money and think about the ship. When you're already fatigued, sleep deprived, it's excruciating at times.